Hey townies, my name's Philip and you're watching the Mountain City Show. Hey, if you could, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. And don't forget to click the bell.
The bell?
Yeah.
What's the bell?
Bell notifies them every time we have a new video. So make sure you click the bell.
It's free, costs you nothing. Thanks, everybody.
You want to talk about how dad's rights have changed in the past 20 years?
Oh, they have, yeah.
I would like to talk about this because it's important to me. Because years ago, I got divorced and I had a son. And, 20 years ago, it was if you were a dad, don't even try to go get custody because there is no way in the world you will get anything, ever. Right?
You're exactly right. Yeah, absolutely.
Like you're going to be stuck with every other weekend.
Yes.
And there's no way in the world that will ever change. Right?
You're paying
the maximum
they're
amount
on
of
your
money.
health insurance, and you get them every other weekend.
Yep, you're paying automatic. You will not get
Don't
anything
even try
more,
to fight.
Right? Even if you tried to get more, right? So you could, if you tried to get 50-50, they would not give it to you for multiple reasons. And they wouldn't because of, number one, the states make money off of child support.
They do.
They do. So every dollar they get, the federal government reimburses them.
Right.
So the more child support they get, the more money the state makes. Right? So
okay.
I mean, it's almost like a business. It's for the states.
Well, it is a business.
It is.
Yeah.
So I think, at least for me, my issue with that is because when you award that and you take that away from the father, meaning if a dad's willing to do equal, so, he wants to do equal, and the mom knows he can do it, but a lot of times the attorneys start getting involved and they don't want him to have that because if he does have that, then child support is cut in half.
Yes.
Or cut by so that it's only a quarter.
Benefits, period.
Or zero.
Right.
Right? So a lot of times what you'll have is the mom being like, well, no, you can't. Here's how it typically worked for most situations back then. You can get, you can't have him. You can't have him. He's good with me. He's good with me. All right, you can have him every other weekend. And then once that judge slams that gavel down, then she'll turn around and go, well, you can have him as much as you want now.
Yeah, because she got what she wanted.
She got her maximum amount of child support, and now you can come get him as much as you want.
Come on, get him. We don't have to abide by that. You come get him whenever you want to come get him.
Correct.
Yes.
That's what happens. Yes. And the problem with that is, being a guy, is that once you wind up paying, and it's a lot of money for child support, if you're just an average person like both of us, we're barely middle class. What happens is then you go from working one job to now working two, and you're working weekends. So you're working two jobs to make up for what you lost by paying child support. Because at the time when that happened with me, I was bringing home $500, a little over $500 every 2 weeks, and my child support was $400.
Right.
So they took one paycheck of mine, and I was expected to live off of one paycheck, which was what, $500, $600 for the entire month. And that would include everything: rent, housing, electric, car payment.
Yes.
And I couldn't afford it. So I worked two jobs for about 16, 17 years until, he basically graduated high school. But a lot of times when these judges go to do that, they don't take that into consideration. So they'll be like, well, we're going to give the mom the maximum amount because, financially that's in her best interest. Financially, that's in the state's best interest. But that is definitely 100% proven that it is not in that child's best interest.
No, not always. It's not. Absolutely not.
When you kick the fathers out, and they'll tell you this, we're not kicking you out. You can still go get them. You're only in court ordered entitled to every other weekend. But then the mom comes in and goes, well, you can have them as much as you want now.
Yeah,
you can get them every day. I don't care.
That's the way it goes. You're right.
Well,
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
no problem. But how can I get them every day when I can't even afford to fucking live?
Yeah.
So I got to work freaking, 90 hours a week so I can actually afford to live. So when I go get my son or my kid, my daughter, whatever, I can actually go do something with them.
Right.
But what happens is you wind up so overworked and so that by the time your weekend does come rolling around, you're just like, dear God, thank God I got a day off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and you want to be there for the kids because the kids don't understand the financial aspect of any of it. They just want dad.
Yes.
They want time.
Yes.
That they don't want cash. They want time.
They don't want money. They just want your time.
But they can't grasp that concept till later in life.
Correct.
They don't understand that.
So I am glad to see that over the past 20 years, people like myself and you and the other dads out there who went through that, number one, educated our sons about it. Because I did.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you need to be extremely picky when you get married or you have children with someone. You need to pick a good woman, not someone that's...
Yeah. Well, times are changing now, too,
right?
Especially in this state, which was totally shocking to me, too. It seems like that things are leaning more toward the father in some aspects, as far as rewarding visitation and custody.
Custody is a big one in my mind. So, I think that if you brought them, like together you had that child, so you should have every right that mom does.
Absolutely.
Right?
But it doesn't always work that way.
No, because I understand there's always circumstances where that's just not even possible. I also understand there's circumstances where you do the best you can with what you have. I understand that.
Right.
But overall, there should be, in my mind, it should be an automatic thing that it's equal until you can prove why it shouldn't be.
Otherwise.
Yeah, almost like being...
Right.
Oh, it's like you're innocent until proven guilty.
Well, yeah, because all those deadbeats out there, and there are, but that's both sexes. Let's get that straight too. They don't want to. They don't want to. Just because you have a kid doesn't make you a father.
Correct.
I guess I should say.
No, that is true.
So they don't want the responsibility or none of it, and they don't want to pay. So it makes the rest of us, which are willing to be fathers, want to have kids and do the right thing and raise them and be responsible. Well, we're stuck in that category too, just because of that bullshit.
Yeah, like some of the stats they have on children who are growing up and just a mother for a household.
It's not good.
It's like 80-some% go to prison.
You gotta have a male figure
right? So at some
the
point
or in the child's life,
they need to. I believe that the court system is extremely flawed for that, but it's family law. And I get that family law, in my mind, is probably the absolute most difficult law there is. Because you're intervening in people's personal lives with their children.
Well, and it's not black and white either.
No. So at least in my mind, each case should go in being like, all right, this should be 50-50, and we shouldn't award any child support.
Until somebody blows it.
Until you can
until
you can prove to me
otherwise
why that person shouldn't have that right. Right? Like that should be a God-given right.
I think so. Absolutely.
It should be a God-given right, man. That if that's your son or your daughter, you should be entitled, even if you're not with the mother, you should be entitled to have them half the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing pisses me off more than two people turning their kids into weapons to attack each other.
I've seen that. I've seen it so many times.
Hell.
I've seen
it's ridiculous.
It is. I've seen single mothers sit there and say, well, he can have many times as long as he pays that check.
That's right.
But,
once that money
and then it'll be
stops,
like, well, why don't you give him 50-50? He's a good dad. I ain't doing that. I lose money.
Yeah.
Then I got to get a job.
Well, it's unfortunately...
Hey, no, listen, then I got to get a job.
Yeah, not everybody's heart's in the same place. Not everybody's heart's the same as yours.
True. But I can't say... I'd
have
they've
to
learned
say
how to work
I
the
was
system.
lucky as far as that goes. I mean, I never was ever taken back for more. Whatever was established at the divorce, that's what I paid the entire time.
Yeah.
She had opportunity to do so. She didn't.
Yeah.
I always paid on time. I always got my kids, and we raised them together.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that is not the norm.
Yeah.
It's not the norm.
I think you're right. And I will say that as time has gone by, more dads are getting awarded 50-50.
It's getting there.
Way more than what honestly, man.
Back from our day, yes.
They even flat out told you when you walked into that attorney's office.
You were beat. Yeah.
The best you're going to get is every other weekend.
Yeah, they already knew.
And you're going to pay the maximum amount of money for child support.
Yeah, they already knew. It's not like that anymore.
Right. And it's not like that anymore.
Yeah,
it's
you've got lawyers that are doing the work.
Well, that, and you have people who've went through it over the past 20 years in those positions now.
You're exactly right.
That are being like, no,
That
we're
are
not
in
gonna.
those positions.
Yeah, so think about
judges
it.
and
When
lawyers.
I was,
Yes.
you know, when I was in my 20s,
That's exactly right.
when I had my son and we wound up getting divorced, and he was 2. Think about it. 25 years later, you can go. Like, people in our generation are now in those positions.
In those positions,
yeah,
making those decisions.
making those
right.
decisions.
Then they went through it just like we did.
Yeah, or they have a friend who went through it.
Exactly.
And they had someone they know went through it.
So
and they're
times are changing.
yeah,
But
why would you, why couldn't he have that?
I never understood why a woman would, and it happens. I've seen it. Attack a man that is willing to do his part.
Money.
And they're just pissed.
And usually after the money's solved, come get him as much as you want. But in the meantime, I'm taking, she's taking as much as she can from him. And you know what? I will say this. I've seen some crazy shit with family attorneys, like women who were on drugs.
Oh, yeah, give them right back. I know.
Went to lockup, came back,
I
took
know.
the custody right back off
Right
the
off
dad, who was doing a great job.
Yes.
I
I've
have
seen
seen some crazy ass shit when it comes to family, child custody and family law.
Oh, I have too. Yeah, I agree.
And I can't say it more than once, like a lot.
No,
lot.
oh yeah.
Not just
give them right back.
Yeah, not just one time.
Well, even now today that goes on with the current epidemic that we have. We had the opioid epidemic going on, and now fentanyl is hitting the streets like crazy, and these kids are living in this mess.
They are.
And they're getting handed right back to them.
Yeah, right back to someone who
Yes.
just got clean because they were in prison or in the county jail or whatever for 6 months.
Right.
Or got sentenced to like drug court or whatever.
Right.
Where in the meantime, the dad's been doing everything. Kids
Yeah.
are making school, they're going there, and they will literally take them right back off of him and give them to the mom because they believe just because of her gender, she's a better parent.
It's a gender decision. I'm not going to argue that. Absolutely.
No.
And they always used to say they didn't want the kid's life to be altered the least amount possible. So that's why she got the home. She gets the money. There's very little impact through a divorce on the child. That's what the courts told me they were trying to do. That was the overall.
Yes, because the reason
agenda.
you could say that is because
because the kid's
say
not moving.
say a man and a woman got divorced. Well, they want her to stay in that house instead of them selling that house.
Yes.
Right, and then her finding a more financially appropriate place to live.
Right.
And same with him because he's moving anyway. But they no longer afford that family home because but they want them to stay there. So that means he is paying for all of that and can't afford to live. I mean, you can't afford to live.
I've seen some crazy amounts handed down just to some men I know that I don't know how they expect them to live. I
don't either.
I don't know how that.
So here's a great example.
I don't know how they decide that, if it's an individual thing, but
it goes off of.
But it's. I thought it was a scale.
They do have a scale. However, it's not accurate.
Social services.
Yeah. So
scale.
What do you mean for
like child support?
Oh no, child support is supposed to be done with a formula.
Right.
But here's the thing.
Yeah, there you go.
So say I had to pay. And this is 20 years. So we'll just do
20 years ago.
Yeah, we'll just do for today, right? So average probably about $800 a month, right? So $800 a month, probably for one child.
Right.
Right. And that's if you're making $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year.
Right.
Now, why does it take? We'll just round it and say $1,000 a month.
Go ahead.
So the average dad is paying $1,000 for one child, but then you look at some of these extremely wealthy people, and they're paying $1 million a month.
Oh yeah.
So there is no way that those guys should be paying $1 million a month in child support when this guy down here is paying $1,000.
Well, because they don't want to alter the child's lifestyle. So it's $1 million.
It's either that or
he's living in $1 million home. He's going to continue to live in $1 million home.
Why? It should be set in my mind. It should be
for everybody.
No. So there should be a top amount. There should be a top. So say if I make 50 and I pay 1,000 and someone above me makes 100. Now, hold on, let me finish.
I'm listening.
Right? So we could probably cap it at 1,500, 2,000 per child. Cap.
With the matching salary to go along with that.
Yeah, like
pay for money.
because you can,
So
if you're making,
you're saying that if you make this amount of money per year, this is what you're going to pay. If you make this amount, this is what you're going to pay.
yeah, I'm saying it should be capped. Nobody should be paying $1 million a month in child support.
I understand.
Nobody should be paying that. It does not cost that much.
But then don't forget that not only the child support, but then they go after the alimony too. So
what if they weren't married?
Yeah, well, there you go.
There's none of that.
There's none of that.
It's just
then.
child support.
Right.
So
Which
child
is
support should have a
common,
cap.
too. They're not married.
Yeah, child, that's more common now
yes,
than ever.
it is ever.
So
yes.
child support should have a cap.
I agree.
Right? It should, and don't tell me it's fucking $10,000 because that's ridiculous. Right? $2,000.
$10,000 what, a month?
Yeah.
No, that's ridiculous.
Some people are paying $1 million. Some are paying more than that.
I know. We're talking about your ball players and your
the NBA
stars.
guys and baseball players and stuff. But
I understand.
You know what? I'm sorry. You should not have to pay that. I don't care. You shouldn't have to pay that. You should have to pay a normal amount, right? And then don't get me wrong. It goes the other way too. So say the guy's making minimum wage.
Yeah.
Well, he's not paying that. He might make $200 a month.
Yeah.
That's good. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or what you could do is be like, all right, I can solve that. We'll give them kids a little something more, right? I can solve that. So say all these, like say we're in a state and we have a bunch of extremely wealthy people and they're paying, we could cap it for the extremely wealthy.
Okay.
Right? So say you make over $1 million a year, we can cap that and say the most you can pay ever off of your salary is $5,000 a month per child. But what they do is the mom will still only get that $2,000, and that $3,000 will get thrown in the pot for the guys who make minimum wage, right? And they can do one of two things with that. They can either give it to the mom, which I disagree with, because the mom's just going to piss it away.
Okay,
you've seen it just like I have.
Go ahead.
You've seen it. I've seen it. Like try to get an itemized bill where your child support goes. You're never going to get it.
You're not going to get it.
Or what they could do is they could take that money, that extra money, and say, since he makes minimum wage, he's going to get allotted an extra $200 a month, and we're going to put that in the child's name for when they want to go to college.
Ah, okay.
Right? So this guy who's making $1 million, who can afford the $5,000 a month without a problem, right, is now taking this kid whose parents are working minimum wage jobs, and now he just got a free education. Right?
That's one way.
I mean, there's multiple ways you can do that.
That's one way.
But I think that needs to be capped. And I think, I still tell, like, my son, you got to be careful. Just be careful. You got to pick a really good woman.
Yeah,
good
you
woman.
do.
You have to pick a good woman. And it's hard to find.
And the older you get, the harder it gets.
It is. And, and you got to tell him, too, nobody's perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect.
It takes work. It's not television.
Correct.
It's not Hollywood. A relationship takes work. Raising kids takes incredible amount of patience and work.
It does.
I mean, it does.
It does. Oh, it does.
It really does. And it's not an easy thing to do.
And I'll never forget this, right? Like I remember, her being pregnant with my son, and, other dads telling me, and parents going like, your life is just going to completely change.
Oh, but you don't see it.
And I didn't believe it.
No.
I had no idea what they meant.
I know.
I mean, I had no idea. I literally had no idea.
It looked great, though.
Right. I mean, but I'm serious.
Boom.
Right? That's what happens.
Yeah, I know.
So let me
Know
explain.
what I know?
I'll tell you my story real
Go ahead.
quick,
Go
right?
ahead. I
So
want to hear this.
She had a C-section.
Okay.
Right? So for whatever reason, he was all goofy, turned over, whatever.
Okay.
So, and I don't know. She had a C-section. I was in the room.
All right.
All right. So anyway, we go through all that, and then we wind up getting home. And I'm just like, she can't walk, you know what I mean? Because she just had a C-section. So I literally had to pick her up, and I'd put her in the bathtub, and I'd pick her up, and I'd put her into bed, and I'd pick her up and put her in the rocking chair. And that happened for about a week.
Okay.
Right? Well, in the meantime, I had a newborn.
Right.
You know what
to
I mean?
take care of, too.
Like,
Yep.
who cries every 2-3 hours, who wants fed, right? And this happened. Well, don't get me wrong. She started getting up and walking around about a week and a half later. She was pretty good. She was ready to rock and roll. You know what I mean? She's like, all right.
I got you.
But I would still, he was still up for like 3 months. He was up like every 2-3 hours, and I swear to this day, that was the hardest thing I think I've ever done in my life was that. Like, it was not easy.
Yeah, but you know what happens, though, after a while, they get a little older. They get like 6 months, 8 months.
Yes.
And that cry,
Yes.
You snap right out of sleep, like right
Oh,
now.
you do.
Bing.
And then
right
here was the
now.
thing too, right?
Where when you was a kid or before you was a parent, you could have drove a fucking freight train through your bedroom
Yep.
and you wouldn't have budged. But
Yep.
that cry will wake you up every time.
That's true. And here was the thing too. So she didn't want to work, of course, and
Yeah.
every new mother does not want to work. So
Well, back in those days, though, Phil, if they did work, it would be to pay for daycare.
pay for daycare, and it's still the same today, I'm sure.
So there you go.
You know, that's one thing you have to weigh in is daycare versus staying
You
at
raising
home,
them, right?
right? And you know, she winds up going to work, and she doesn't have a really good, like a degree and a good job. Most likely, it's in your best interest to just let her stay home and you go pick up another job, which is what I
Right.
did. So I worked 2 jobs.
That's what we did.
And so she could stay at home. And I would get home, and this is no shit, at like what, 1:15 in the morning back then?
Yeah.
Right, 1:30, I'd
Yeah,
probably walk
about
in the
that.
house. Well, he was up
Waiting on
around
Dad.
2:00. So I got the nice ride home because we worked out of town for an hour away and come back,
At least you
I
got
got to the
wind
house.
down a little bit.
right? And then
Yeah.
I would wait for him to get up. Yep. And then I'd feed him, and I'd put him back to bed, change his diaper, burp him, all that kind of stuff. Put him back to bed. He'd go to sleep. And then I would get up at 7 in the morning
7.
to go to my first job.
Yes.
And that was,
God, you and I did that for a long time.
yeah, and I look back at it now, and I don't know how I did it.
I don't know how I did it either. Not now.
Like, I don't know how I did it.
I mean, 10 years straight there for that one stretch.
Yeah.
Was 10 years.
10 years.
2 jobs.
Well, it was longer than that.
Just
I worked 2 jobs for almost
Well-
17 years because I worked 2 jobs from the time Noah was actually born.
I did it for
Because-
about 10 or 12 years straight.
Right? So,
Just round the clock.
and I don't know how I did it.
I don't know how I did it either.
And honestly, so look, for all
I don't know how
and
I
here's
did
the thing too, right? So say you have and it's the same, but the difference is now it affects the people with the college degrees too. And I don't get me wrong, I don't have a college degree, but I would do very well with the occupation I had throughout my life.
Right.
But now, like, people coming out with college degrees making 50 grand each, that still ain't enough, man. Like, at some point you have to do the math and be like, well, it might be in your best interest not to go to work
You
because,
can make more money doing a trade than doing that.
yeah, so it might be in your best interest to not go to work because of childcare costs, like you
Yes,
said.
yeah,
And
exactly.
you're right. Back on topic with the
kids.
with the dads, is that I am very happy that a lot of these court systems now are awarding dads 50-50 custody.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
I think that's a great thing. I think they should be an automatic thing until A, you can prove why they shouldn't, or B, that child, once they turn a certain age, which in the court's eyes,
Right.
which I think is 13,
Well, in the
has
eyes,
has the right to say,
right.
look, I want to live here or live here.
Well,
I don't want to keep getting shuffled
Right.
like I'm a traveling salesman, right? Which I mean,
And it's not so much gender-based decision making anymore. It's leaning away from that, and they're looking at both with a blind eye.
well, yeah, because I mean, look at our prison system. I mean, there's so many people locked up, and 89%, 87% of those people come from single mom homes.
Yeah, raised by mom or grandma.
Yeah, right there tells you
No men.
that you have to have the dads in the light.
You definitely do.
So that means, I'm sorry, states, you should not be getting money for child support. You should never be reimbursed by the federal government for it, which I know you are. The government needs to be completely out of it when it comes to any type of financial.
The only thing they need to do is mediate or moderate to make sure it's being paid. We should be able to just
Yes.
pay it straight up outright.
Well, no, I still don't mind. No, I see. I understand what you're saying. However,
I would have done it that way.
I would have too. However, I liked the fact that the state took care of it for me. So if there were problems,
Well, that's true.
because I did get phone calls throughout the year saying, "Hey, I didn't get it." And I was like, "Well, you're gonna have to."
Yeah, you're gonna have to call them. Yeah, that has happened. You're
You know what I
exactly
mean? So
right.
you
Yes, it has.
Don't ask me. Ask the state.
I don't know where it's at. It should be coming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that has happened. You're exactly right.
I'm all for them doing that, like taking the
I
money
can understand that.
and reallocating it to the mom or the dad or whoever. I'm all
Right.
for that, but I'm
Right.
not. I'm so against the states getting money,
To
making money off
to
of child
police it,
support.
basically. They're policing it, basically.
Well, no, they're making money.
Well, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
They're getting kickback from the federal government.
Yes, they're getting a huge kickback.
Yes.
So, but you're right. I do think that it's changing, and I think that's a great thing.
It's it's starting to change. So it's going somewhere. It's finally starting to go somewhere. But now the law aspect of it's the things that need to be changed now. You know, like you're talking about, where the kickbacks and this and that and the incentives that the state
incentives.
gets.
Yeah, there's huge incentives for them.
It's ridiculous. There's no sense in that. It should be about the kids.
Yes, like
Period.
in one state, child support, the money they make off of it is the retirement for like the judicial system for that state. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
So the judges,
Yeah,
public defenders, that's where they get their
That's
freaking
what
retirement
that's where
from.
it goes in the till, huh?
You know what I
That's
mean? Like, are you kidding me?
Well, I know when I was still working, they started charging me a surcharge to take it
Well,
out
they
of
did
my
that to me.
paycheck.
It was like $2.
Yeah, but what the hell?
But you know what?
Why?
Yeah, I know. But I was like, yeah, why? Because you're already making money. But
Yeah.
like, if you weren't making money off of it, then I'd be like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, they surcharged
I'd be
me
like,
to
no
take
problem.
it out of my paycheck.
But you're making millions.
And how many people in this state are they doing that to?
Everybody who pays.
Ain't that something?
Everybody who pays.
That's big time money, brother.
You know, and like in our state too. So like if in our state,
A
if you didn't
surcharge.
pay, if you were behind on your rears, like you had rears on child support,
Yeah, you were. Yeah,
you
no
could not
kidding.
have a mortgage. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Like you
I
could
know
not
they
have a
would-
mortgage.
I know they would fuck with your driver's license.
They
but I
would
didn't
do
know
that.
about getting a loan.
But they would not let you have a mortgage in the state unless you were caught up on all your child support,
Ain't that something?
right?
And it's all based on the dickheads out there, the Richards that don't want to be dads and don't want to take responsibility, and we all get lumped into that class.
and I will say this.
Laws get passed to enforce laws.
Yeah, and I will say this. Most of the dads I've met, and I've met a lot, will sit there and tell you like, hey, look, I'll take the kids. I don't want no money from her. She can keep it.
Absolutely. I've heard that
And
before.
I've heard that so many times.
Yeah.
Like,
I've know guys that are doing it right now,
Yeah.
raising their kids without
get
any
any money.
support coming in.
but don't get me wrong. There's a lot of
Yeah.
women who don't get any money. A lot of moms
You're
out
right.
there.
Yeah, I'm not. It's
Um,
not a one-sided issue.
It's not.
No,
But I
it's
think
not a gender issue. It's a kid issue.
it is a kid issue.
Yes.
However, the courts turned the custody part into a gender
Yes.
issue.
Well, yeah. Years ago they did,
Yeah.
and
it
now
hasn't quit.
now some. At least I could say some judges are looking at it with a blind eye
They
instead
are.
of gender.
Yeah,
So-
I think that's a good thing, and I still
Yes,
think they
it
ought
is
to
a
come
good
out
thing.
with standards saying, look, like I'll give you a good example. West Virginia's like this. West
ahead.
Virginia is, we are going to start, everybody gets 50-50. There is no child support
Until you ruin it.
until you prove to me why I should change that,
Okay, that's a good way to do it.
right?
Yeah.
And that's a good state for that, you
Yeah,
know? And I mean,
yeah.
you really have to prove. You got to have to prove it, man. Like, prove to that judge why.
Incompetence or
Why, yeah,
why
what
you need
what
that
happened
money.
that was so bad that he can't be with his mom or his dad?
Right.
you
I
know,
agree with that.
So I
call.
agree with the way that is. And I
Absolutely.
think that should be incorporated
Absolutely.
into a lot more of the other states. And they can even take it a step further
It's
after
like
that.
starting everybody at zero, and if you screw up, then the scales are unbalanced, and it goes the other way.
Yeah.
It goes to the kid's best interest.
Yeah. Well, the kid's best interest first is
It's both
starting off
kids.
as 50-50.
It's both parents, yes.
You know what I mean? That's the
Yes.
best. That's the best
Absolutely.
case scenario.
Oh, I agree with you.
And then from
Yep.
there, we'll work our way down,
Yeah,
or we'll
or-
leave it the way it is.
Right.
But
I agree with that. That's a good way to do it. That's
You know,
the way it should be.
back in the day when it was an automatic, when you walked into an attorney's office and he laughed at you,
Oh, yeah, he had his answer for
He-
you already.
I already
This
know
is
what you're
going to
getting.
get.
you know,
This is what you're going to get.
it's not gonna, it should not be that way.
Yeah, it's
Hey, thanks again for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button and become a resident of the mountain. Thanks again.